their parents that have availed you, whoever made a choice for those students to be in front of you, they're entrusting you with their future and in your guidance to get them where they need to be. And that's your role. Your role is more, so much more than teaching curriculum. And please take care of yourself in the midst of all of this, because you can't pour into anybody if your cup is empty. So you've got to take care of yourself too, because the jobs that you guys have is a job of pouring every day. And I know it can be exhausting, and I know it can pull on you, and it can be trying. But I'm just here to remind you today how so important it is to society. You know, there's no greater fan of community college than me, because for a couple of reasons. I'll tell you two. One is my own reason. When I was in school, and if you want to read the rest of the story, it's all in the book. I mean, the book is just a collection of stories about educators from preschool to law school that were a part of my life, that had an impact on my life, that God placed there to help guide me along the way. But I remember when I was in high school and I was continuing to be a good student, things had actually gotten worse at my house, if you can believe that. I had another uncle that moved in that was mentally ill, had been discharged from the military. So now we're dealing with mental illness in the house and domestic violence and having to go to foster homes. It was just a roller coaster ride. And I remember in high school, we had a Wallace Community College in my community in Clanton, Alabama, down in Chilton County. And I'll never forget that as long as I made certain grades, that I knew I had a scholarship there. I knew that I had a way to further my education when I got to high school. Now, I was wanting to go to college. I wanted to be a lawyer. I knew that. And I knew that college, a four-year institution, was the route to do that. But I didn't know what my circumstances were going to be. I didn't know if I'd get a full scholarship to Auburn like I ended up doing, where I could go. But this is what I did know, and this is what kept me going and what had me knowing that there was a path. I knew that I had that community college in my backyard. So I knew that if nothing else, I could work a job and go to community college and continue my education, that there was still a way, there was still a pathway. And that's what you guys offer. You offer that pathway. Four-year college is not for everybody. In fact, look at the numbers in our state. It's not even for the majority of the kids that go to K through 12 in Alabama. And I'm glad that we're at a point in our focus on education and is realizing getting kids not just college ready, but career ready, and understanding the value and importance of the role that the community college plays in that. I mean, and it's been doing it at least since the 80s, when we started really ramping up our community college system in Alabama, giving people an opportunity for a pathway that don't have anybody at home that's guiding them, but they know that they exist, the ease of access to it, it's in their backyard. They can do it over time and work a job while they're doing it, because their home situation may not afford them the opportunity to be able to just go hunker down and focus on school all the time. It is a gift and a blessing to the community and the state and everywhere they exist across this country. It's amazing, and really it's what serves the majority of the students past high school, unlike our four-year institutions that serve the minority of the students past high school. Just in my county alone, only 6% of the high school seniors go off to a four-year college. 6%. Well, there's that other 94%. Now, we no longer have a Wallace, but we have a Jeff State Community College. And it affords that opportunity for people to have an opportunity to move beyond high school to specifically focus in on their passion and what it is they want to do with their life. And it's incredible. It's an incredible thing that it exists. And I want to thank you all for it, because it's a service. And I'll close with this. And it is to help you guys understand not just why I name my book More Than a Bird, but why I value you and what you do so much. So when I was in the third grade, I'll never forget this, I remember on the last day of school, the school was pulling away, and the bus was pulling away from the school, and it was fading in the distance, and I'm sitting on the bus where most kids would be excited. They're going to swim, go to camps, do all of this stuff. I sat on the bus and I cried. And I didn't just cry, I wept. I wept because I was leaving my precious school. I wept because I was leaving the one place where no adults hurt me, the one place I knew I got a meal, the one place my mind was stimulated to learn, and the one place that I actually felt my age, like somebody cared about helping me navigate my path. No different than your students. And I cried. There's a sense of feeling a sense of value when you walk into a school and you're around educators that care. And it's therapeutic. And I remember, now I'm fixing to have to be in my reality 24/7, 7 days a week for 10 weeks during this summer break. And I went into this depression. And, you know, it is, it's not your job to be mental health counselors, and you may come across students that you feel you might want to recommend down that path to get the help with the many demons and things that they deal with. And I know they come to you sometimes and share with you or whatever, you know, but I grew up in a time where that wasn't even a conversation. I mean, people just pushed through stuff, right? You just sucked it up and you just went on and you didn't process things. And so I remember just sort of sitting on that bus that day, and I just started crying because I felt like, what's the point? Like, if this is my quality of life, what's the point of going on? And some of your students have those circumstances they go home to every day. And it's because of you being in their path that they feel a reason to continue on. Well, me being a kid, I just really, I didn't understand it. I couldn't understand why this all was happening to me. And I remember going into this little depression. And 2 weeks after that, my Aunt Leah's invited me to this church with her. And I went not because I wanted to go learn about God, because I went every Sunday with my grandmother, but I was a kid. They didn't have children's church. They would get so emotional in there. I didn't know what they were doing. I just sat there. Well, so she asked me to go with her, but it was a Wednesday night Bible study. And I went because it got me out of my house at night. So I go to this little Bible study with her, and the first thing the preacher said when we sat down is he's like, I want everybody to get out your Bibles, and if you don't have one will be provided to you. Well, that was different. Nobody had asked me to read the Bible before. But because of school, I could read, and I could read well. And thank God I could read well. They gave me a King James version of the Bible. So they give me this Bible, and we're reading through all these stories, and I start to experience an emotion that I hadn't experienced before. It was this thing called hope. Because I'm reading about this God, and if you're a person of faith or not, you know, I'm just talking about what it did to me and what it meant for me. Because I'm reading about this God that had helped these people, at least according to this book, overcome all of these things. And we ended that night in the book of Genesis with the story of Joseph. Now, you folks out there know, people that, church-going folks, y'all know about the story of Joseph, right? That story is a hot mess. Let's put it in modern-day context, right? So you got 10 boys, and they got 3 or 4 different baby mamas, and 2 of the baby mamas are sisters, and they all live in the same place. Y'all, that's a hot mess. So you've got this situation going on, and Joseph's the baby. He's the baby boy, and he's daddy's favorite. Daddy makes sure everybody knows he's daddy's favorite. He buys him this coat of many colors. The boy's strutting around in his little coat. Those older boys get so jealous of him. And then the boy has this dream that people are bowing down to him, and including his brothers, and he's bragging about the little dream, and those boys get so mad at that boy that they go out and they sell him into slavery and go back and tell the daddy that he got killed by an animal. Now, y'all, that is trifling. We would call that human trafficking today, wouldn't we? Put it in today's context. And so he ends up going into slavery, and while he was enslaved, and for those of you who do read the Bible and read that story, go back and read it and notice one little caveat as you sit here in your role as educators. We all know the beautiful ending of that story, how Joseph eventually became governor of Egypt because of all of his skills. But in that slave master's home, as terrible as that circumstance was, he was very well educated. Very well educated. And so it was those skills and that education that not only helped him become governor of Egypt, but put him in a position where not only did he save his family from famine and starvation, this man saved 2 nations from famine and starvation. So I'm sitting there and I'm reading the story with my own eyes, and I'm thinking to myself, if this God can help Joseph and he went through all that bad stuff, maybe this God can help me. See, it's never too late to help a young person trying to become the best version of themselves. Never. Regardless of their background and the story behind their eyes. Never. It's never too late. And so I leave that night and all I can think about is this story, these stories of hope. And I go back the next Wednesday without even being invited. I was ready to go read through different stories again. And we ended that night in Matthew 6:26. And I'll paraphrase. It says that if God will take care of the fowls of the air, and they neither sow nor reap, then he'll take care of his children. Aren't they better than a bird? Now, the preacher went on to say, think about it. You got to be more than a bird. Now, y'all think about the birds. That's why they tweet all the time. The birds are like, I'm not worried about nothing. Those 2-legged human people, they gonna build bird baths, they gonna build bird houses, they gonna get out binoculars and stare at us, they gonna take pictures of us, they gonna hang pictures in their house of us, they gonna do all their landscaping around us, they gonna have their food in the park and have to share it with us. Why do I have to worry about anything? Tweet. I mean, birds, sometimes they can have more faith than us, right? So the preacher was saying, if God will take care of feathered fowl and give us a propensity to take care of them, wouldn't he take care of his children, human beings made after his own likeness? Now, here was the tragedy in that moment. And y'all be patient with me. I've done this 12 times for 3 different states over the last 2 months, and over 100 times across this country and into Canada. And no matter how many times I do this, when I get here, it is hard. Because I sat there in that moment and I struggled with whether or not I was more than a bird. Because to me, it seemed like the birds had it better than I did. But then the preacher said this. He said, you know that you're more than a bird because God will send people to love you. He will send people to love you even when the folks that are supposed to be doing for you aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. And when he said that, it was like a light bulb went off in me. Because in that moment, all I could think about was my school, my community, the people that I knew cared for me. And because of that, faith came into my heart that night, and I professed Christ. And I began my spiritual journey of learning how to live my life through the Word of God. And I stayed on my natural journey of using education, the great equalizer, the great opportunity and place of hope, as a mechanism for having a better quality of life here on earth. And from preschool to law school, God always sent people like you to love me. What you do is love, and we should own it and call it what it is. It's not just teaching. It is pouring into the lives of human beings. And the pouring that happened to me didn't just affect me. Don't just look at the person that's in front of you. You're affecting their family. You're affecting their offspring. You're affecting the circumstances around everybody that they're going to touch. And it's such a calling to do it. Even if you're not a person of faith, you're a person of the human touch, or you wouldn't be in this room. Because you get it. You get the touch that human beings play in the lives of people, particularly in an education institution. Because that's the place you avail yourself to help shape your life. And I want to thank you for being a part of that calling. And I want to thank you for staying the course through such trying times. Some of you could decide, I need to walk away now. I don't think I can run the risk of doing this, but you're here. And I want to thank you for being here. And it's my prayer that you all have a blessed academic year. Thank you all so much for having me. May God bless all of you. Thank you. Thank you. I'll stop it. Now, I know we have a couple of minutes. I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has them. Otherwise, I'll be back at the table if anyone would like to get the book. Did anybody have any question you think somebody else would benefit from hearing an answer to? It doesn't matter. All my business is out there. I wrote it all in a book. Nothing to hide. Okay, well, if not, maybe I'll get to visit with you at the table. Thank you all again. Have a wonderful year.
Absolutely. I've heard her speak several times, and it's always new. Hope, resilience, and the story behind the eyes. I mean, those are things that are easy to remember, but they're very powerful, and it is what we do. So thank you again, Liz, for being with us today. We need to do the state of the college. You want to stand up and take a break, come back in a few minutes, or just keep rolling? What would you like to do? Keep rolling, let's go. All right, here we go. In the interest of, if any of you have a question that you want me to answer or a topic that you want me to talk about, I meant to say this a little bit ago, but if you'll pass it over to Teresa, she'll pass it to me and we'll talk about it in case you don't want to ask it in public, okay? But I'm going to try to share the, just kind of update you on a few things. Let me get my notes. I hope that I can see good enough to read them. All right. Okay, quickly, I just wanted to update you on the outcomes of pathways and ATD that we've been working on for more than a decade now, Teresa. We just keep decreasing the number of students that we're serving in developmental education. I really want to commend you. We started this work in Achieving the Dream, and we finished it in Pathways, and we're still fine-tuning. But one day, I was at a board meeting in Montgomery. It was after Chancellor Baker had just been appointed. And they were about to pass a policy with a new board at that time that would have stopped us from being able to continue this work because it would have been embedded in policy. So I pulled the chancellor aside and I said, look, Chancellor, this language right here would prevent us from continuing to do the work that we've been very successful with at Wallace State. Can we tweak this language and this policy? Well, that got me appointed to chair the College Readiness Task Force. 58-member task force. We did a lot of work. The system now, because we were able to advance the work we were doing here, adopted a policy for placement and assessment and co-requisite instruction. The system now as a whole is experiencing these kinds of outcomes. So I'm very proud of the work that you all have done over the years. Next slide, Teresa. This is, again, more gateway math and English completion. You see how, the number of students completing gateway math and English in the first year has continued to increase. We had a blip in last year, and it had something to do with Banner. Maddie's explained the way that she pulled the data. So I don't trust that last 1920 year. Next slide, Teresa. And the same thing here, the number of students who are college ready, that blue bar shot up. Again, that's something to do with prerequisite checking in Banner. So we're still doing well there, Teresa. Graduation rate is 45%. That's among the highest in the nation for a two-year college. If you take our graduation rate, our transfer rate, and our persistence rate and add it together, our student success rate exceeds 91%. That is really tremendous for a community college. Quickly, this is a chart that I just kind of follow because community college enrollments mirror what's happening in the employment market. So you can see that we've just really kind of trended positively in that our enrollment stayed strong even when the unemployment rate was decreasing. There's generally an inverse relationship between the employment levels and community college enrollments. As unemployment goes up, community college enrollments go up. But you can see what strange things began to happen in this last year with this pandemic. It's not unfamiliar to any of you. There was a lot of money flowing into the market, into the economy, lots of unemployment, lots of stimulus, those kinds of things. So for whatever reason, enrollments across community colleges, not only in this state but across the nation, have mirrored this same decline that we've experienced. We are not in isolation here. Next slide. So I want to show you this. It's a hard, and I didn't bring my glasses with me, so bear with me if I can't see something on here. But our enrollment has trended down. Right now, today, and last fall semester, it is the lowest that it has been since I've been president at Wallace State. Not since about 2000, 2001 maybe, has it been at this level. And I can tell you that concerns me as a president. I mean, we can't continue this kind of trend indefinitely. We have done well, and I'm going to show you some revenue figures. We have done well in this past year because our expenses have been down, but there's been a lot of money flowing into the college from stimulus funds as well. And we have used those to shore up the financial strength of the college, but also to invest in the future. We've benefited in a lot of ways, and we're still going to be benefiting. But I wanted to make sure that you see what I look at constantly, and that is how are we doing in comparison to other colleges which we would consider peer institutions in the state. Because Coastal, which was Jeff State, Bay Minette, Faulkner, and Alabama Southern, Patrick Henry, because those merged, we were previously the third largest college in the system. Now we're four because that merged set of institutions took the third place. Jeff State now has more students at last glance than Calhoun did. Jeff State. And there was previously a couple thousand between the two of them. Calhoun has declined significantly, which is unusual because they're in a metropolitan area. So if you look at us, I like to compare 10 years ago, fall 2010, and then the last 2 years. Fall 2010 was the highest enrollment ever at the college. As you all will remember, that was the height of the recession. We had the mobile units on the front. All of those things happened, but we had 6,300 students that fall semester. We didn't know where we were going to put all of them, but we managed. So I like to compare to that to kind of see how we've declined since then, but also to compare the last 2 years. So if you look at our head count from 2010 to 2020, we declined by 25%. The system average was 28%. The worst was 43% and 42%. The best was 2%, and we were at 4%. So we're doing really good compared to our peers. If you look at fall headcount 2019 and 20, last year was 4762. The year before was 4985. We're sitting this morning, Teresa, wasn't it 4662? Yeah. So I think we'll have a little bit of an increase I feel like we will. Commendations to all of you who've been working so hard at that. If you look at credit hours, that credit hour production, that's our money. We can have 1,000 heads, but if we don't have enough credit hours, we would feel that financially. We have only declined from 2019 to 20, 6%, compared to 14% on average for the system. The lowest at 2%, the next lowest was us, and then the next was 9%. Part of that, what that has to do with, and that is reducing the reliance on developmental education and implementing pathways, because we have more full-time students now than we previously did in the past because of the way we have expedited their pathways to completion. So I wanted to make sure that you see that, because when we talk about an enrollment decline, it's real, and we have to attend to that as a college. But as a whole, we're doing well compared to our peers, and I do expect that that will change. With regard to our health as an institution, we are financially healthy. Again, if you look at the conclusion of 1920, that blue bar, that's our revenue compared to our expenditures. We had a decrease in expenditures last year because you all weren't spending as much money, right? So, but the revenue increase has to do with the stimulus funds that were available to us. We will see a decline in that this coming year because we are using our fund balance to pay for the cost of construction for the welding and incubator facility. And if you look at our fund balance trend, it has continued to go up, so we continue to be a healthy institution because of the way that you manage in your departments. One of our other indicators that I watch constantly, and I know some of you wonder why I don't hire more people to do more things at different times, is because as a percentage of our state appropriation, we have to maintain a handle on fixed costs and costs that we don't have a control over increasing because of like salary schedules or things like that. So I always monitor the payroll as a percentage of O&M, which is our state appropriation. The next slide shows our cash and investments. We're still healthy with regard to that. We haven't had to dig into our investments to fund any function at the college, and you should be very proud of that. So I want to touch on some things of recent importance to us, and that is our strategic plan. You know that it's come out to you. We've adopted it. We're not going to do a lot of new initiatives like Pathways or Achieving the Dream, and you all breathe a collective sigh of relief. Our focus really needs to be on fine-tuning those things that we have done and done extremely well. And we need to be very strategic about the funds that we have available to us to invest in the future of the college and in your programs and what you're doing. And we're trying to do that. But we've adopted a plan for 4 A's for a future community, because we're a microcosm of the community. We should always reflect it. So we have to continue to focus on aligning our programs with what is needed, accelerating students to completion, acquiring the resources that we need to be successful, and then focusing on student achievement. That's pretty simple. That's what we do every single day. But when I talk about alignment, I have been in conversation with Cabinet and others for the better part of a year or more about one door to Wallace State. We have done a lot of work in Achieving the Dream at decluttering the front door to the college, streamlining pathways through advising and program streamlining. But we are still serving non-credit workforce students in workforce. We're serving our credit students at the front door. We're serving our adult ed students in adult ed. We're serving our customized training students here. And we've got about 6 doors to Wallace State. And I really want one door to Wallace State, so that if you are an adult ed student, somebody is in front of you talking to you about what is your career pathway. We're missing an opportunity to capture a host of students because we're serving them in different doors. And we've got to do things differently, so that's what we're focusing on. We've been through this Aspire process. All of you, at some point or another, were probably involved in a focus group, a survey, or some sort of thing, and I presented that plan to you. I presented the capital improvement plan that grew out of that. We're still in a holding pattern. All of the Aspire documents have been reviewed by the teams at the system office, and I checked on the progress yesterday. The chancellor intends to meet with each college individually with maybe their finance and facilities person. I don't have a schedule for that yet, but that intent is still there. So I don't know whether we've gotten the $30 million that I asked for. in bond money. I'm hoping that we will. If we do, we'll be able to accomplish the goals within that plan. If not, we'll see what happens after that. But we are still going to build with board approval, because I got the approval to go ahead with the planning. We're still going to build the STEM/gateway building. I see that as a gateway to STEM opportunities, and that's why we call it that. It's a classroom building. And we have been working with the department chairs and deans and others to design that building. We've had a lot of discussion about bathrooms. You can imagine that, right? And I know you all talk, and so I like to quell rumors to the extent I can when I know that they're out there. In the welding building, we have unisex bathrooms. Just like outside of this Pine Heart Conference Center, those restrooms are unisex bathrooms, right? And so that's what I've been trying to get at in that facility. The law is the law, and we're going to follow the law. I don't have any control over it. But I am trying to make sure that we have a facility where everybody is comfortable. Now, in that design process, there's this grand lobby or atrium, kind of like in this building, and I was hoping that we would be able to create a bank of unisex bathrooms along walls where, you just walk in, well, everybody's comfortable, right? That's not the case because of the cost of plumbing and where you stack things and extra square footage and code requirements and things like that. We are going to have male-female restrooms with floor-to-ceiling walls and unisex restrooms to complement those. So just so you all know, happy to share those plans with you at any time. I also heard that I had promised the math building all of the offices with windows, and that's not true either. I'm surprised sometimes at the things I say. I really am. I've got to do a better job of controlling what I say, but anyway, no building is ideal, because we run out of the ability to have as much square footage as we want. But one thing I do is that when we're designing a building, I do listen to people, and we do our very best to try to accommodate every need that we possibly can and every desire that we possibly can. I got cost estimates on that this week. Our construction budget was about $25 million. It bumped up to $31 million, so we're cost cutting right now. The construction market right now is crazy. Cost of steel is crazy. It's starting to stabilize a little bit, but we will expect that to continue for a while. But as we flesh out these plans, I'll be sharing them with you, certainly with the people that will occupy that building. So, COVID. Thank you all for wearing the masks. I know that none of us want to wear them, but when we're in a big group like this, it's essential. I heard another rumor that the administration was bribing people to take the vaccine. Okay, so I had my relationship with Webster, so I had to check out the definition of a bribe, and it's a financial or some other inducement to do something illegal that would benefit the person offering the bribe. So I want to assure you that I'm not bribing anybody, but the stimulus funds that we have available to us can be used to incentivize people to take the vaccine. Whether or not you take it, that is your business, and it makes no difference to me. But if we can use it to incentivize people to become vaccinated, to reduce the death and severe illnesses that are happening, I think it's incumbent upon me to do that. And so all of you who have decided to be vaccinated, you're eligible for a $500 incentive. Just yesterday, UAB announced that they were causing their hospital workers to be vaccinated, and they're only giving $400 incentive. So I felt pretty proud that we placed that as a priority. And the University of Alabama is only giving their students $40. Can you imagine that? Although parking at the Haley Center at Auburn might have been a premium, that might have caused me to think about doing that. So, but anyway, what you do is your business, but for those of you who have decided that you want to take that step, then you'll go through those steps to claim that. Masks, I was asked by someone whether I would mandate masks. The governor hasn't done it. The chancellor didn't do it. Neither local superintendent is. It's not mandated in any business in Coleman County. So it's really not, I'm not going to do it here. But if John Stevenson is in his office working and John wants to protect his health and he says, I need you to don a mask before you come in, I want him to be able to do that. And all of you are free to do that. I asked Harriet to put a note on her door. She's got one that says, you know, please don't enter unless you have a mask, right? Because it's to protect her. And you all can do the same thing. Put a sign up on your door. If you're in a small office and somebody says, I'm not putting on a mask, well, step out of that office and go find a big space to serve them, okay, so that you can distance and protect yourself. That's what I want you to do. This building is different. You've got a lot of healthcare workers in here. I was asked whether we could cause masks in this building. Yes. If the people in the Bevel building get together and you all decide that you want to cause everybody who walks in that building to be wearing a mask because they're healthcare workers, healthcare students, then I do that. For any faculty member who wants to cause students to wear a mask in your classroom, then I want you to do that. But not every classroom is the same. Matthew Jackson might be teaching a class, well, probably not a good example, but if you're teaching a class at Aniana that might have, Seth, 9 students in it because we're making a class, you know, to make sure that we can serve everybody, and those 9 students can spread out, you may not need them to wear masks. If they're down in machining, that's an indoor facility, but all of those students are spaced out because their machines are spaced out. So not every environment is the same, but you have the freedom as employees here to say what you do in your classroom and in your office, and I want to assure you of that, and I'm going to support you in any way that I possibly can. Remote working is not an option now. We received that from the chancellor. He wanted everybody back in, I think it was March of this year. He wanted everybody to return back to campus. You all are already back. So hats off to all of you. And using leave, you all know that there's no more COVID leave, so that necessitates that we use our own leave. There was something that came out from the chancellor within the last week or so. I've shared it with cabinet. There might be instances where there might be someone who's not able to perform the essential functions of their job. Maybe somebody didn't get vaccinated and they have to do a clinical that requires them to be vaccinated. That's an essential function of their job that they might not be able to do. In that instances, we're going to have to refer it to legal at the system office, okay? So just so you know what I know. We have, Teresa, would you see if I can find her fund table? I think I picked it up and put it over there. Thank you. So I wanted to update you on the funds that we have had available to us and what some of our priorities in using those. We did something that I think has become, Dr. Smith, a best practice. We started the budget hearings early this past year in anticipation of how we're going to use these funds, and then asked you to look at, 3 years out. That's really been a good process. So we will continue to do that, but we have been able to fund a lot of those needs through these stimulus funds. In addition to that, I have engaged an architect to do an assessment of all of the HVAC systems. Some of our buildings, Bevel, the chiller, we're trying to find ways that we can use those funds for those HVAC systems. So I've got an architect working on that, doing some cost estimates, preliminary studies, and so we're holding that as a priority. You know that we have announced a center at Winston County. We were able to get some legislative appropriation to help us do that, and we're going to put just a mobile unit over there. It will not be a site like Aniana. I'm calling it a community learning center. We will have it staffed with adult ed people and periodically, rotate people through there. The volume is not there for a center like Aniana, but they do need access. So we've done that, and while we've been studying the Winston County setup, we've also been looking at that same kind of setup to determine whether we can add childcare here to our campus. And so we're working on using some of those funds to establish a facility. It will have to be a mobile unit because we can't build things. But we are trying to address the needs that our students face. And generators, we've had a study for generators done to be able to purchase some of those, like whole building generators for the dorms, so that our students don't experience those kind of outages. So we're prioritizing some of that. Any questions about any of the use of those funds? Teresa, did you have the table that had the dollar amounts on it? No, it's not on there. You gave it to me this morning.
Is it the one that Maggie brought?
Yeah, I think it's on that table. I think it's under that folder right there. Thank you. Okay. So, to date, and I don't expect any more money coming. We just got notice about 2 weeks ago of another $606,000. And we're just little bitty Wallace State, in all of the nation. So you can just imagine how much money is out there in higher education. But to date, we have received or been eligible to receive, and we've just not drawn it down yet, $27,412,693. Now, a portion of that had to be directed specifically to students, and we're doing that. We will give out grants again this fall. We've in fiscal year ending 20, we spent $2.288 million, $2.3 million essentially. In fiscal year 21, we have spent so far $5.4 million. We have $1.5 million in open POs, and so we have $18.2 million left that we will be focusing on the things that I've shared with you. Equipment that we can justify under the guidance. It has to be COVID related, and generators, HVAC systems, those kinds of things. So, any questions about any of that? It's been a gift that we will never see again, so we need to be very strategic about that. I have asked Stacy Sibley to step into a role as Director of Dual Enrollment, Fast Track, and Off-Campus sites. We had a change in leadership there, but for the better part of a year, I've been speaking about what I want to do with dual enrollment. We're missing opportunities in dual enrollment, very much so. We can do more in every area that we serve. We have to do some things differently. And so I'm looking at how do we rebrand it? How do we offer things to students in a different kind of pathway so that they can access some of those state scholarships that are available to them? The legislature passed a $1 million appropriation for STEM dual enrollment this past year. We just received our notice yesterday. We're going to get $39,000, so we'll be able to fund some students in academic pathways that are STEM related that they have not previously had access to scholarships for. So I'm very happy about that. In addition, we just received, I think, our last notification of experimental Pell. We've got one more year on that, so that gives some more students an opportunity to take advantage of all that dual enrollment has to offer them. So you'll hear more about that. Now, I wanted to talk about something that I know, and I'm nearing the end of this presentation, something that I know is on everybody's mind. The memo that came out. Y'all know what memo I'm talking about? The compensation memo? Okay. I know that created a lot of angst and I sent it as I sent it because I didn't have anything to explain, and I still don't have anything to explain. But our current salary schedules have been in this system as long as I have been in the system, 36 years almost. They are a remnant of the community technical college system being administered by the superintendent of education when we were joined with K-12. They look like the K-12 salary schedules. The problem is K-12 salary schedules have changed somewhat, and ours have not. But I want to show you, I'm a data person, so I take a look at things, and I've been looking at this for years. Because if you look at our E4 and E5, if you calculate E4 and E5 starting salary at 0, guess what dollar per hour that is? Anybody want to hazard a guess? Anybody? $12.62 an hour is starting pay on E5. And you can look, it goes up over 27 years. The salary schedule on E5, the lowest, increases by, I think it's just under $7 an hour over 27 years. That's kind of think about that, right? So I want you to look at this, and this is our salary schedules. So you look at, see all the different numbers? That is each time there's a step increase, that's the percentage that step increase is. Now, I think we probably have a sense of fairness here. You know, whenever the legislature gives us a 2% increase like we did this year, you all want 2%, don't you? Now, if any of you want to give your 1% to somebody else, do you want to do that? I think in a sense of fairness, I feel like and I can't speak for the board, but I think in a sense of fairness, what they want to do is to treat all employees equitably as it relates to increases. The salary schedules have money built into them, but it's not evenly distributed because on C schedule, for example, C1, C2, I think the step increase is like $1,974. It's a different amount for every salary schedule. So would you think it should be like 1% this year instead of 3% over 5 years? So this is, I can't see that, so let me do this. So if you look at E5 and 6, the lowest on the scale, and even look at D1A, which is starting for a master's degree, compared to D4 with a doctorate. Look at the differences. Why would you get to 15 years and give a D4 6.6 and a D1A a 5.5? Shouldn't everybody be treated the same? I mean, percentage-wise? E1, yeah, and E3, that was the middle of E3. So you can see how the percentages are just all over the board because it's a set amount as a percentage of what the previous salaries amount was. Go to the next slide. So what I did was look at not the average increase from your salary at 0 to your salary at 5, but the cumulative amounts for each year, like you've got 2.1 one year and 2.0 the next year. So the cumulative amount of percentage increases for these 0 to 5, you look at the difference, 0 to 5 years on those salary schedules. And look at then 5 to 10 years, and then 10 to 20, and 20 to 27. Now the next slide is just a visual. So you get a lot more percentage increases in your first 5 years, but then your next 5 years, not quite so much. And then the next 10 years, not quite so much. And then your last 7 years, not quite so much. Does that kind of make sense to you about why salary schedules probably need to change? And I don't know what they're going to change to. I have no idea. I'm not on a committee, Don't have any insight, but I do know that the chancellor has hired an outside group. They have collected all of the job descriptions. We've uploaded all of those into a database, and they're looking at those across colleges, because it could be that I have David Calhoun here working in a support position where he's making X dollars here. You might have the same kind of job at another college and they're making X dollars there. Now, not all jobs are equal across institutions, because small colleges wear lots of hats, large colleges are very specialized, but a registrar here should not be on a B salary schedule when a registrar at X college is on E4. So they're looking at creating equity across colleges in the way that position, because there's a lot of difference, you all, a lot of difference. So I wanted to share that with you, just not to give you information about what's going to happen, but try to give some positivity. I'm an optimist, you know, and I wanted to see what I see in terms of how the salary schedules really could be improved and changed so that people get increases across the board. Now, I know there was one statement in there about nobody's salary is expected to be decreased, right? And I'm sure that caused some angst. But if you are a non-probationary employee, and most of you are, you have a property right in what your salary is. So I wouldn't be concerned about that, okay? I just want to reduce the angst. Any questions before I do my very last slide? Any questions? Robin?
My question is, over to the guys' dormitory, I'm gonna use that for an example.
Yes.
And the weather season, when the weather is not feasible, really to be walking, because the way the campus is
Right, laid out.
down,
Mm-hmm.
the students, when there is snow, rain, or whatever, my thing is, I want the students to go to class, but if the rain is real hard, I mean, it's raining really hard, or snowing really hard, whatever, it is really hard to come from over there across the pine down the classes when they don't have to be here.
Okay.
Now, is there any money or any way that we can, like,
A shuttle, like a shuttle or something?
to get to class?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just something for you to think about.
That's a good
Because
suggestion.
I mean, it's very, when you see someone, or when I see someone going to class or trying to go to class, and of course I have stuff in my truck, too much. And to try to get them in there, and
Yeah.
to shuttle them to the nurse, I'm just using the nurse
Right.
as an example. Is there any kind of way that we can do anything to help?
I think we'll have that as a conversation, Robin. Thank you for making that suggestion. Let us talk about it in cabinet and see whether there's anything that we can do. It's a little bit of a difficulty, you know, to think about shuttling them from door to door, you know, but we will, you know, we have talked about the difficulties that students have with transportation outside, getting to campus, and so that has been a topic, and you've shared that with me before, so thank you for caring for our students. But Dr. Smith, if you'll add that to our list of things to talk about. Thank you, Robin. Any other questions or comments, anything you want to talk about? Todd?
When will we know what courses are going to be available for that STEM dual enrollment scholarship?
It's pretty broad right now. Any academic course that supports a STEM pathway. Now, what we have done is created a STEM, you remember the general education certificate that we've been putting the dual enrollment students in so that we could make sure that they have a credential. We've changed that. Dr. Johnson's been working on that, and she has a STEM certificate. So we've got some courses in there that there's some flexibility in that. So it's any, as I understand it, it's any academic course that supports a STEM pathway. Now, I kind of don't think they're going to support us paying for a social science, I think they're going to look for a math, an engineering class or an intro to engineering and some science classes. That's what I think will be more supportive, obviously. Okay? Any other questions? Yes, COVID vaccine clinic for tomorrow. I hope that those of you who might want to get off the fence will take advantage of that and let your students as well, or anybody in the community. It's open. So it's the Moderna too, isn't it? No. Oh, it's the Pfizer. Okay. Well, I told somebody a story then. I thought it was a Moderna. Okay. Any other questions or anything else that we need to talk about? I want you all to know how very important you are. I mean, what Liz was saying, even though she was speaking on an elementary experience level, that hope and resilience and the story behind the eyes, that's so important to what you do every day. And I hope that this video captures a little bit of that. I wanted you to hear from our students as we close out this and begin approaching our fall semester. Thank you.
Some of the wisest words that have ever been told to me are, nunca dejes que nada ni nadie te corte tus alas y te pare de volar. Never let anyone or anything cut your wings and keep you from flying.
Today, I just want to talk about a pretty simple topic, change. Change will happen in your life, period. Big or small, good or bad. And how you cope with these challenges can make a huge difference in how you move forward through them. Each experience prepares us for the next thing in life.
It is because of your dedication, encouragement, support, and heart for students that we are able to stand here today, one step closer to our dreams. We are grateful for every encouraging word you spoke over us and for believing in us when we didn't believe in ourselves. Thank you to all of these incredible individuals.
Both of my parents dropped out of school, and so did my brother. My dad couldn't even read or write. So that was a big accomplishment for me when I decided to go back and get my GED.
Life isn't supposed to be easy. It's hard, and it will get even harder. Life isn't meant to be easy, and if everything was so easy, everything we would attain wouldn't have any value.
So I guess you can say I've been knocked down a few times, but it was never an option to not get back up.
You have proven that you can do hard things.
Everyone always asks me how I can be a volunteer fire department with Garden City and then be a full-time mom and still find time to go to school. And I simply tell them it's dedication. You have to be dedicated and willing to put forth the work and effort for something that you want or something that's important to you.
Imagine you're holding a cup of coffee and someone comes along and bumps into you, making you spill your coffee everywhere. Who's gotten through this year with coffee? Maybe those T-bombs across the street? I know I have. Anyway, why did you spill the coffee? You spilled the coffee because there was coffee in your cup. Had there been tea in the cup, you would have spilt tea. The point is, whatever is inside the cup is what will spill out. Therefore, when life comes along and shakes you, which will happen, whatever is inside you will come out. It's easy to fake it until you get rattled, so we have to ask ourselves, what's in my cup? When life gets tough, what spills out? Joy, gratefulness, peace, and humility? Or do anger, bitterness, harsh words, and reactions come out? You choose. Today, let's work on filling our cups with gratitude, forgiveness, joy, words of affirmation, kindness, gentleness, and love for others.
Education, and for me, my experience at Wallace State, have been those safe places where my two souls as a Mexican immigrant and an American student have united. It is my hope to continue to help open the door of opportunity for other students like myself, and I encourage you, the Wallace State family, to keep opening that same door of opportunity for students of all cultural backgrounds.
After all you've been through, a lot of you may think you deserve a nursing degree too. Thank you for every time you encouraged us to keep going and believed in us when we were ready to quit.
And I'm grateful for Wallace for giving us this opportunity. Thank you.
This convocation, and that is for you to hear from the student graduation speakers that not all of you might have had an opportunity to hear about the importance of the role that you play in their lives. So thank you for your great work, and I hope you all have a wonderful fall semester. Thank you.